Right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. A warm and sunny welcome from the Center for Career Development to a very cold day in Houston here. That's Houston for you. The weather changes just on the dime. Anyway, welcome everybody. And I just want to say we are joined in this presentation by our employer relations team led by Ann McAdam Griffin, who'll be talking to you in a minute. And you will get a chance to meet them all. The CCD, our Center for Career Development team, is a team of 11. We're comprised of the employer relations team, along with our career counselors who meet one-on-one with our students, and they deliver professional development workshops as well. We also have about 40 student peer career advisors who are ambassadors to the students. We are a centralized career office, which makes your job a whole lot easier, meaning we're one-stop shop for all of your recruiting needs, your internships, your job postings, career expos, and of course, student recruiting. We serve all students as well, all undergrads starting freshman year, all master's students, PhDs, and alums. Everyone except for the MBAs who have their own career center and career development office. So a quick recap on the Rice student profile. Our student population is almost 8,000 students with 4,000 undergrads and close to 4,000 grad students. Rice was founded in 1912, and we are a top tier research institution offering more than 50 majors across 7 schools of study. We also just implemented the new business major at Rice, just so everyone knows. Our agenda, let's look at our agenda.
Shelby, can you flip the slide, please?
Okay, great. Throughout this presentation, please feel free to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand and we'll get all of your questions answered. And let's move to the agenda. Here's a brief overview of what we will cover today. What recruiting will look like in the spring, logistics of the virtual Spring Career Expo, and plenty of time for your questions and answers. Again, welcome, and I'm delighted to turn this over to Ann.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And again, thank you everybody so much for joining us today. Not surprising, safety and well-being continue to guide our programming plans. So we really just want to make sure there's clear expectations for both our employers and our students, and where our team is working really hard to make sure the connections that employers and students are making are meaningful. And we're going to share some of the ways that we hope we can do that this spring moving forward. So with that said, we do still need to continue to abide by Rice's policies. So many of you are probably familiar with the decision that we made back in December to delay the start of in-person classes by 2 weeks. So our students are wrapping up their first 2 weeks of classes online, and they are all planning to come back to campus this weekend. In-person class delivery will begin on January 24th. So there are a few limits to campus operations, but nothing too significant. We do continue to require face masks for everybody indoors, and K95 masks are strongly encouraged. So event size restrictions are going to be lifted as of January 24th also. So we're excited to be working with our employer partners to schedule some in-person events. And we're also happy to continue working with partners who are eager to continue the virtual recruiting options that really have been working well over the past 2 years. So Camille is going to talk more now about those recruiting options. Camille?
Thanks, Ann. So this spring, we will continue to offer an array of options for you to engage with Rice talent. First, we'll be hosting our virtual expo through Handshake on February 8th, and we are going to do a deep dive on the expo in just a few moments. And we're excited that all of our campus recruiting options this spring will be available in person and virtually. Employers and students are excited to safely engage in person, but we will continue to offer those valuable virtual recruiting options. Information sessions are a great option for promoting your company and opportunities far beyond a job description in Handshake. We host information sessions Monday through Thursday from 4 to 5, 5:30 to 6:30, and 7 to 8 p.m. And we encourage you to be creative in the formatting of your events. Many employers have seen success hosting trivia nights, simulations, panels, and more. Rice students attend a lot of events, so it's important to think about how you can make your event stand out, including adding descriptive event information in Handshake for students. And we also encourage you to reach out directly to students and relevant student clubs through Handshake and/or Owl Nest, which is our student engagement platform. Also, if you have Rice alumni at your organization, consider engaging them in your sessions to help connect with current Rice students. Finally, we encourage you to register as soon as possible as we are rolling into the peak weeks of the spring recruiting season, where it will be easiest to engage with the most students this semester. If you'd like to host interviews for Rice students, we recommend planning at least one touch point prior to the interviews, like an info session or coffee chats, to help build interest among students. This will also give you a chance to prepare students for how your interviews will be hosted. And when you're ready to schedule your interviews, please request an interview schedule via Handshake. And when you're doing that, it's important to remember to let us know whether you'd like to come virtually or in person. Either way is fine. We'd love to help you interview Rice students. Finally, coffee chats are another engagement option this spring and can be requested as an event in Handshake. Coffee chats are an informal and easy way to connect with students and can be customized to target specific relevant student groups. Owl Nest, Rice's student engagement platform, is a valuable resource for employers as it contains a list of student clubs searchable by topic and includes contact information. If your coffee chats are in person, we'll get you set up in Brockstein Pavilion at the heart of Rice's campus, where you can network with Rice talent over a great cup of coffee. And virtually, coffee chats can be an open Zoom room in office hours style or a set schedule of virtual meetups. Our team can help you leverage Handshake to make your coffee chats a success. And if you have any questions about campus recruiting, virtually or in person at Rice this spring, please reach out to me. If you have any ideas that we're not currently offering for ways that you'd like to engage with Rice students, let us know. We're always happy to work with employers and learn about what you'd like to do. So before we move on to the virtual expo, are there any questions about campus recruiting this spring? You can either put them in the chat or unmute yourself. No questions? Okay, well, if anything comes up, feel free to put it in chat. We're going to move on to virtual fair logistics.
No, we just moved in. Thank you. Bye.
Deborah, did you have a question? Nope. Okay.
So as we get started talking about virtual fair logistics, I'd love to see if anybody has participated in a virtual fair before. If you have, throw up an emoji reaction, and we'll go ahead and get started on this. Camille and I are going to approach this section. Awesome, Jennifer. Happy to see that. We're going to approach this section like a conversation, and we'd love for you to join us. So please unmute or jump in the chat. Let us know your questions as we go along, best practices you've uncovered working on a virtual fair platform, or issues you've come up against. We're happy to tackle those questions as we go along. So starting with the details of the virtual expo, we're going to host it on February 8th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Time. And the platform, and it'll be hosted through Handshake. The time is flexible. We're going to run it from 10 to 3, but you and your team can pick the time that you're going to be on the platform within that window. You can set your schedule whenever you and your team members want. Though you can have up to 100 members of your team participate, it's probably a little too many for most of you. What is important to know is that all of your representatives must have Handshake accounts in order to participate. You can add representatives on your company's Handshake profile by entering their email address. Then that person will get a link to follow and set up their account. You can definitely email us if you have any issues. Michelle, will you drop my email in the chat, please? So Handshake virtual fairs have the capability to host two types of recruiting session. And the first is the one-on-one session. These are between one company representative and one student for 10 minutes. And that's a fixed amount of time. You're not able to flex what that time slot is. You do get a 1-minute warning before the session is about to end. And students are also able to screen share so they can show you their resume or their portfolio live during the session. The second type of session is the group information session, and these can hold up to 50 participants at a time. It's a great opportunity to provide information about your organization to students in a group in a 30-minute format. You can have as many as 15 company representatives on the group session at one time. But again, the max number of participants is 50, so that would allow only 35 students to be able to participate. Students are muted as they come in, but you are able to unmute them so you can have conversations and hear their questions live as well. One of the questions that we frequently get about the Expo platform is if an employer or a student can jump on and start connecting with each other live. And Handshake does not have this feature. You have to have a schedule in order to connect with students directly during the day. So we're also in the process of collecting a student resume book for students who are participating in the Expo, and we'll share that with employers who come to the Expo right after the event.
Okay, so we're going to go over more details in just a minute, but we want to highlight our favorite resource, the Handshake Virtual Fair Guide. This online guide from Handshake has checklists as you begin preparing for the fair, tips for scheduling, and demos of exactly what you will see in the one-on-one sessions and group sessions, so you're not surprised by anything. Michelle dropped the link in the chat for us. This is also on our website's Expo page, and we will also email it out to you several times before February 8th. Next slide.
Camille, can I interrupt for a second? There's a question in the chat. How do you schedule one-on-one interviews without the resume book?
Oh, that's a great question. So once an employer sets up a one-on-one schedule, students will be able to see that schedule and they will sign up for the slots. Employers are not able to sign students up, but once students are able to see your schedules, they'll be able to claim those spots. Thanks, Michelle.
Oh, yes. So let's talk about getting started. If you've already registered for the Expo, you can tune out, but just for a second, because we're going to go through this quickly. The first step to participating in the Expo is to register in Handshake, and then you'll be prompted to pick a schedule owner for your organization. This person will be the only one who can schedule your group and one-on-one sessions for all the representatives from your company for the fair. But you can change your schedule owner at any time if that becomes necessary. Next, you're going to fill in your company information. And if you have jobs already listed in Handshake that you're going to be recruiting for at the fair, it's a great idea to link those at this step as well. And once you register, please give us a couple of days to send your invoice. And the fastest way to make payment is to select credit card when you're registering in Handshake. If you choose manual, we'll need to email back and forth to get your payment squared away, which can hold up your registration approval. And once you're approved, once you've made payment and gotten approved, you can begin creating your schedule in Handshake, which facilitates your connections with students during the fair.
So setting up schedules is the area where most questions come up. But what is nice about it is that you can set up your sessions for whatever times you prefer. So pick your selected time slots, then you'll be prompted to assign the session to the team member who's going to be holding that schedule, or to yourself if it's your own schedule. Once the schedule is added, the responsible team members will receive an email, and then they'll be able to claim their schedule and they're good to go. It's that simple. If you want to make changes, the schedule is not permanent. It can be changed up to 24 hours before the fair if you need to move things or people around. So when you're thinking about the schedule, a good recipe for success that we found is at least one group session and then individual sessions throughout the day. Our data from previous fairs showed that there's really consistent student attendance at both group and one-on-one sessions throughout the day. So you really can't go wrong with whenever you're able to set the timing for your sessions. We've already have about 400 students who've registered for the Expo. So we would recommend creating your schedules sooner rather than later, because then students will have the most time to pick your sessions first. And I mentioned this previously, but we do get asked if employers can assign slots to students. And again, the answer to that is no. But we do welcome you to message students and connect with them and invite them to sign up for your slots.
So let's talk about qualifications in Handshake. One of the biggest differences that you'll find between the group and individual sessions, other than the obvious, is the qualifiers. One-on-one sessions can have restrictions based on graduation year or major. For example, if you're an architecture firm attending the Expo, we recommend that you set all of your one-on-one sessions to architecture majors only. But for all other companies, we want to encourage broad exploration and urge you not to place too many restrictions. Even connecting with freshmen is a great marketing opportunity for future recruiting. Across all schools, Rice students have a variety of competencies and skills that will benefit your organization. And the most common technical issue that we see with the virtual fairs is companies trying to recruit students for their one-on-ones, but they've set so many qualifiers on their sessions that students can't see them in Handshake. So if that's a problem, let us know. We can't change your qualifiers. You're going to have to change those, get into Handshake and change those, but that will be an issue if you set those up that way. So essentially, we want you to have the largest pool of qualified candidates possible, and we're happy to talk more about your specific needs and what that could look like for your organization. If you do decide to enable restrictions, please be aware that those will be lifted 48 hours before the Expo to encourage virtual fair attendance, unless you opt out at that stage.
So we have a few best practices that we've discovered along the way that we wanted to share with you as well. The first is naming your sessions. So we would encourage you to make them clear and fun. That's how you'll help draw students' attention. For example, instead of saying Anne's information session, I might say something like interested in a career in marketing to really pull those students into what I'm offering. Our biggest advice is to really try and post your jobs and internships that you're hiring for in Handshake at least a week before the fair. This will help students see the opportunities that you have available and that they'll be able to discuss with you when attending the fair. And it will also help drive traffic to your applications. So as you're preparing to meet students at the Expo, you do have the capability to message students who were signed up for the Expo in Handshake. You can simply click on the student's name to view their information and uploaded documents. And Michelle is linking that, putting the link to those instructions in the chat. Thanks, Michelle. So one of the most common trends across virtual fairs last year throughout Handshake and also what we saw at Rice is last minute registrations by students. So we really want your team members to look at their schedules the morning of the Expo. We had a lot of no-show employers for the first couple of time slots in previous fairs because we imagined that they looked at their schedule the night before, saw they didn't have any students, and then didn't come on until later in the morning. So again, students will sign up late. Handshake will automatically send an alert if a student signs up within 24 hours before the Expo, and knowing our students, this will definitely happen. So the Handshake technology has worked really well for us previously, but we do encourage you to, if you use Teams or Zoom, you may want to have a link available just in case there's a problem with the platform. You can also choose to use your own platform throughout your schedules. When you're setting up your schedule, you'll see an option if you want to link to an external video source. And so finally, to make the most of your experience, we would really encourage you to follow up with students after the fair. And we're telling students the same thing, to follow up with you after the fair as well. We know you're working in a pandemic, and the students are even more appreciative to hear from you after the expo about your hiring timelines. And Camille also shared that you can schedule interviews through our office, or if you want to do an additional information session, we can schedule that as well. We'd also love it if you tag us on social media during the expo, or as you're planning for the expo, setting up your schedules, tag us, and we can push that. We can repost that on our social media as well. Just last note, Handshake really restricts what we're able to do on your behalf in the virtual fair platform. So we're not able to set up your schedules or override your settings, but we are available for tech support leading up to the fair, and we'll have a Zoom room for support the day of the fair as well.
Yes, speaking of the Zoom room, we will be available at 9:30 a.m. So 30 minutes before the fair starts on the day of the fair, all the way through the end of the fair. This team will be on a Zoom room ready to help you. If you have any sort of issue, please hop in, let us know. We will troubleshoot, and then you can hop right out and get back to connecting with Rice students. So Michelle's going to put the Zoom link in the chat, but we will also have it on our website, and you'll also receive it via email plenty of times before the expo. So we are going to open the floor for any questions you have about the expo or Rice recruiting in general.
Hi, Camille. This is Fernanda from Oliver Wyman. I have a quick question. So if we are not participating in the virtual fair, when is, and probably you already sent this over email, but just when can we start with the other virtual events, like not really the virtual, or is it just in the virtual fair? Like, can I host an info session separately than the virtual fair? I guess that's my question. And if so, when can we already start planning those?
You can, and you can request it in Handshake now. We can do it, as soon as we prefer 2 weeks of lead time, so we can help get the word out to students via our newsletter. But yes, you can definitely host an information session outside of the expo. I would encourage you to do it sooner rather than later. Not waiting until the end of the spring semester, capitalizing on the engagement that we get around the expo. Students are generally really interested in career development and recruiting right now. So the sooner, the better. And we will help you push it out to students.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Fernanda.
So this is Maria Chen from the Starting Group, and thanks for hosting this session. It is very informative and helpful. So this is our first time thinking about hiring students right out of college. So I just have a pretty high level general question about the virtual expo. So in terms of historical turnouts and attendees, so do you usually know what percentage of the students are seniors versus juniors versus underclassmen? That's my first question. And in terms of the second question is, do you have a general sense of what kind of career path they're interested in? So what's the percentage breakdown between, let's say, business versus engineering versus some other careers?
That's a great question, Maria. So it does vary somewhat expo to expo, depending on which employers are attending. So sometimes we may have a heavier slant of employers looking for engineering students. And so that will tend to, the sort of breakdown of students will fluctuate depending on who's at the expo. So one of the things that our team tries to do is look at what opportunities the employers who are coming to the expo are offering. And then we target market those opportunities to the relevant student clubs and just students across the different colleges, so that they know who's going to be there and who they should be connecting with at the expo. I'm happy to circle back afterwards and give you a more specific breakdown if that would be helpful in your decision making, Maria.
That's good. Thank you very much.
I would just add too, that we do encourage freshmen and sophomores to attend because we want them to do career exploration early. And we do have pretty good engagement from the freshmen. And as Ann said earlier, it's another great way to get your brand out. Maybe you're not specifically hiring freshmen, but we have a lot of freshmen who do get great internships just because you'll see the quality of the right student is really superior. So as Ann said, don't put qualifiers as much as you can. Don't put a lot of restrictions on who you can talk to. Again, remember the undergrad student body is only 4,000. Grad students are close to that as well. So unlike some of these other schools, you may not get the volume, but you definitely will get the quality. And our students really do come to the Career Expo.
And speaking of volume of qualified candidates, Rachel asked a great question in the chat about the spring semester as far as what we're seeing for recruiting activity.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Rachel. We are seeing significantly more recruiting activity this spring than definitely in the past 2 years. We are over the goal we set for our number of Expo employers. We far surpassed it, and we're approaching like pre-pandemic levels for a spring Expo. And just in terms of jobs and internship postings, we're getting about 400 a day for Rice students. So there's a lot of activity.
Great. And are you seeing kind of the similar return as far as like the students go? Are there a good amount of students still available and looking for opportunities?
There really are, Rachel. Yes. They are. Our counseling appointments are fully booked and have been through winter break up until now. And so we know students are eager to be connecting with employers.
Great, thank you.
Jennifer, thanks for your comment about the freshman intern that you had. That's always good feedback for us to hear as well.
She did an amazing job for us last summer, so we hope that she wants to come back this summer.
From your perspective as employers, what can we be doing as a Career Center team to help you with your recruiting goals as we move into the spring?
As you're thinking about that too, I'd love to maybe do a show of hands or reaction or whatever emoji on if you plan to continue. Question is, if you plan to continue doing virtual recruiting, just put a hand up in your Zoom thing. Is in-person recruiting dead and gone? Yes, I see mixed. Well, and we'll accommodate that, as Camille said. You know, if you want to come in, we're here. And if you want to continue to do virtual or a combination of that, we will help you with that as well. Yeah, okay, both.
Yeah, I think for us, we're interested in doing both. With the career fair being virtual, we just figured this year we would probably stick to virtual as we typically schedule recruiting events around the career fair. Just because if we're bringing a team of people, you know, for us from Boston down, we want to make sure to sort of capitalize on that. But definitely both in the future, probably the spring virtual.
I think, Anne, did you mention that we are kind of hoping that in the fall we will have an in-person career expo? Is that correct?
That is what we're hoping, and I'd love some feedback from everybody. Is that, are you looking to do in-person expos moving forward? And because we are seeing a lot of virtual information sessions that are spanning campuses. And I suspect that's probably going to continue in the future. But what are your feelings, everybody, about in-person expos? I really appreciate everybody's feedback on this. I really, really am hoping we can be back in person together. So we've concluded with the formal part of our presentation today, and we're happy to stay on for questions as long as folks would like, but I also want to be respectful and give you some time back if you have gotten the information that you need today. It's really been our pleasure to visit with you and share this information about how we're moving forward this spring. And our team is here and excited to work with you and connect you with the amazing students we have here at Rice.